Hello and welcome to Cloudforest Vibes. My name's Bobby, and this is how I grow orchids and carnivorous plants. Hello and welcome to Cloudforest Vibes. I'm going to run through the tank today, and I'm going to give you a couple updates on some plants that are doing awesome and some really big news. I thought that I might be getting some more buds on this little guy here, this Dendrobium cuthbertsonii hybrid, and I'm pleased to say that I was right. And the quantity of buds that are starting to form on this plant are really starting to get up in numbers. So it looks like it's going to put on an amazing show. I want to talk about that. I'm going to show the other Dendrobium cuthbertsonii and just a couple other things I'm really excited about. And then we're going to turn around here. I got a bunch of stuff pulled out. I'm watering right now. And we're going to look at a couple things in here. I have a new bloom. That's the biggest surprise I've got for you guys, but you guys are going to have to wait till the end to see it. It's really special. It is worth the wait, I promise. And a couple updates in here of some things that I'm really excited about sharing with you guys, and I hope you are just as excited to see. So I will start over here in the tank, and we will work our way back over to this monster. But yeah, this is my my watering rack. I pulled out a bunch of stuff. The big stuff this morning, I'm watering it. There's that Phymatocylum spike. This rack is 6'5", so that thing's going to be hitting the ceiling soon. I cannot water it on my normal watering rack anymore because the spike touches the ceiling here where it drops down. So I'm having to come up with new methods all the time to cope with some of these larger plants that I've ended up with, because I really didn't know how big some of these were going to get. Anyhow, we'll start over here and have a look at this guy, and I will be right back much closer. So as promised, the first plant we're going to talk about is this Dendrobium cuthbertsonii hybrid. This, I don't know if you can see the true color of these blooms or not. It's kind of difficult, but they're nice and pink. They're very crystalline. They're extremely crystalline, dainty little things. I just love them. Now, the exciting thing about this plant is right now, currently, you can probably already see a few. I've got 2 more buds progressing really nicely there. I have 3 more progressing right here in this cluster at my fingertip here. The old leafless cane next to it has buds coming out. The leafless cane next to that has buds coming out. The leafless cane here has buds coming off of it. This new growth has buds. This new growth has buds. So, needless to say, this little plant right here should be absolutely covered in these little pink flowers here before too long. I'm thrilled. I'm so glad that I got into these little plants. They are absolutely amazing. A lot easier to grow than I thought. It does seem to really like the humidity. I mounted it with moss, and the roots are taking off in there. I think you can see that. And it is starting to push out new growths. It's got a new growth coming down here, and there's another one just starting over on one of these canes back here in the back. So lots and lots of progress with this guy, and I am super excited. I could not be happier. Panning to the left a bit, we have the little Dendrobium cuthbertsonii red. This was a gift, and I just am thrilled about this plant. It is so beautiful. One of my favorite orchids in my collection right now. I do plan on getting a bunch more of these plants. I want to get every color. I've got to collect them all. Just like, anyhow. I absolutely need more of them in my life. They're awesome. This guy is progressing this new growth here quite nicely. It has started a new one here that is growing really well. It's poking up above these guys now. And it too, from this growth here, it looks like it's starting to push out the very beginnings of another bud, so it's going to be in bloom for a while. This flower is lasting quite nicely, and we've got more new growths to come that have a chance. Oh my, look. I believe this growth here is also pushing out a bud, so there might be up to 3 blooms on this plant here very soon, and that is just amazing. So that is our Dendrobium cuthbertsonii red, and this is what I get to see when I come in here a lot. It just kind of glows. Really, really special plant. Also mounted on live moss and loving it. It is doing really, really well. So those are my 2 Dendrobium cuthbertsonii types. I do have some other big news in here, but I'm going to have to move the camera to capture that, so give me just a moment. So we are now zoomed in here. This is my Dracula Lotax that I got from Tarzan. I mounted it with live moss and some of my little forest moss, that's badge moss as well on there, and it is doing awesome again. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spikes coming on this plant. 2 are a little bit further along than the rest. The third one's not too far behind, but they are starting to grow a lot better, a lot nicer, and I'm so thrilled because that means that we are going to actually have Dracula blooms in here for the first time. There's one there. Let me see if I can lift this up a little bit, maybe you see better. It's going to disappear in the moss, but yeah, there's one above my finger there. There's one right there. There's one further back. There's one just starting to peek out down here at the bottom. And there's one down there just starting to peek out as well. So this plant's doing really well. It loves the moss, loves the humidity in my orchidarium, and I'm thrilled. I really am. The Masdevallias and stuff, they're also doing really well, but this is the star of the show right now. I just cannot wait to see Dracula blooms in my house. I am so excited. I have been waiting for quite a long time. My other Draculas, one's doing pretty well. The other one's doing okay. It's starting to recover a little bit, but they are not doing nearly as well as this one right here. So, big news. And finally in here, not finally, I have 2 more to look at actually. This little guy here, that is my Lepanthes guatemalensis that I got, and it has its first bud on. Barely see it, right next to my finger. It's got several spikes progressing, but this is the first bud for me that it's throwing out, so that's really big news for a really small plant, and that's what we like here in this tank. I've got a lot of things to come. I really do. There's so many plants to look at in here. Somebody asked me if I could do an update on my Platystella, and I only have one. It's a rather sad plant. Let me actually get this in better focus. So this is my one and only Platystella. This is Platystella Bacaroy, and don't let the bloom spikes fool you. This plant pretty much does nothing but struggle for me. It seldom, if ever, actually pushes out a bloom. They blast. They get to a point and they blast. I am relatively certain this would like to grow cool. The coolest conditions I can give it are in this orchidarium, down at the bottom with the mist and the fog, underneath plants. It likes shade, it likes cool, and it really doesn't like too much air movement either. It doesn't seem. It really is kind of a true weirdo. They're relatively new to science. They weren't found but several years ago, so there's not a whole lot of information on this specific species, but as you see, it does do okay. It was a lot bigger when I first got it. I got it with my Lepanthes telepagoniflora, the Lepanthes caladiction, and the Lepanthes doddsonii. This was one of my first 4 miniatures. I do adore Platystella, and I want to get a lot more of them, but I think what I need to do before I do that is get a cooler growing setup put together. But this is my Platystella Bacaroy. See if I can get you guys in a little closer. And that is how it's doing. It has almost died on me twice. It keeps coming back though. It keeps pushing on strong and trying its little head off to bloom all the time. So that is that. So it is time to have a look around in here. I think I'm just going to carry you guys around. It is much easier to do that. The first thing I'm going to show you is a bloom, but I'm going to have to pull it out of here, so forgive me. Uh-oh. This is my little Lepanthes auriculata. I got this from Andy's Orchids this year. It is one of your bigger species of Lepanthes. Really awesome little plant. And I'm happy to announce that its first new growth that it pushed out for me has actually pushed out its first bloom. Doesn't look like much, I know. It's a little Lepanthes flower. But one of these days, once this thing is fully grown and covered, all these little blooms everywhere should be pretty well visible in one way or form. Either way, for me, I love the plants. I think that is just an awesome looking plant, regardless. And if you look at it close enough, you stumble upon little treasures all the time. That is the thrill of Lepanthes again. So that is my Lepanthes auriculata, and it is doing well. It's starting to bloom on its new growths that I have pushed on myself. So I'm happy. It seems to really like its mount. I grow it down here with the Piphenia dikea. It is closer to the window than them. I've got a couple other things down here, but it seems to do really well. I kind of want to give it some more light, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to transition it slowly. I'm still moving things around all over the place in here throughout, trying to make the rest of these plants happy, but right now, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's Lepanthes auriculata. Coming on up here, this plant, you guys see it all the time from a distance. That's the big guy that sits right here in front of the window and next to my humidifier, and on this shelf pretty much occupies the whole shelf. This plant is my Maxillaria Bacaroy. Let me get it out so you guys can really see. I mean, this thing is a beast. I got it, it wasn't doing well, it had 0 roots from Equigenera a long time ago, and it is just exploding in growth. There is a new growth there, there is a second one coming off the base of that plant, there's a third and a fourth coming on this side. There is new growths coming from literally all cracks, crevices, all parts of this plant. If I go through and count right now, I can count at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 new growths. So what you see here, it's basically almost doubling in size again. Now that's awesome. It's done really well. As you can see, it's put on a really nice root system. This plant is freaking heavy. I mean, literally it is heavy. It is a healthy, happy plant. It doesn't like a whole lot of light. You can see I've burned some of the leaves a little bit playing with the light levels because it is one of my notorious non-bloomers. Now, there's no reason a plant that size shouldn't be blooming its head off. Every time it's supposed to bloom, it should bloom. There is some sort of cultural issue that I'm having with this plant. Clearly, it's happy enough to grow. Again, this growth down here is pushing out at least 4 or 5 new growths off of one new growth of mine. And it's huge. It's big. Everything's big. It's getting bigger. Healthy plant, but will not bloom. If you have any advice, if anybody knows anything about Maxillaria Bacaroy, please feel free to chime in on this because it is doing great. It's just not blooming. Moving over here, big news. My Catasetum schunckii, several people, thank you guys very much, have identified that this is actually a spike, and I definitely agree now. They're growing really quickly. These plants grow so fast compared to some of the orchids I have in this collection. And it's really nice. It's kind of refreshing actually to see something that springs up and puts on a bunch of growth in one season. Kind of like your Dendrobiums or certain Cattleyas. They just kind of seem to grow a lot faster than some plants. A lot of the miniatures I have grow painfully slow, and they're small anyway, but they are slow and small, and this is just the exact opposite. Leaves are still looking pretty good. I think we're getting close to cutting off the watering, but I am really thrilled. I'm so excited to see these flowers. First Catasetum blooms. Stepping over a bit, again, the Brassavola subulifolia, those those buds are coming along quite nicely. It looks like we're going to end up with 4. The Tolumnia here, we're going to have at least 5. They're coming along, they're small. This one below it is pushing on just a bit quicker. The yellowbird that we've been tracking, the BL yellowbird, we are talking pretty much any day now, I think. I'll be back to update you guys on these. I cannot wait to see those. Goodness, so much going on. The Dyneema polybulbin starting to really show buds now. We've got a whole bunch there. We just looked at that. Oh, I know what to show you. Some really big news in the angracoid world. This is my dideri, my engracum dideri. And it came with 2 fans on it. It had a third one that was just starting that's pushed up quite nicely in front there. And it looks like it is actually down here at the very base of this growth, in the center of the screen right now, started to try to push out another new fan. So that's really exciting to be able to have 4 potential fans on this thing, and the blooming potential that comes along with that, for me, is very, very exciting. It is growing on well. There's a little spider there. It's growing well. It's doing what it should be doing right now. So I'm hoping here in the next couple months we'll start to see the telltale nub of a bud form on this plant, because this was one of my favorite flowers. Absolutely amazing. Here we go. We'll take a quick look at my leafless ghost orchids, because somebody had asked about them. Now this is my Dendrophylax lindinii crossed with salii hybrid that I got from, where do I get this from? Hauserman, I think. Orchids by Hauserman. And it's doing okay. I've put it on this piece of cork, and it's starting to grow new leads off of its roots in multiple places. It's starting to attach to the mount really well in certain places. So it's growing. Is it doing awesome? I don't think it's doing awesome, but it is doing pretty well. I put Spanish moss on the mount with it to give it a little bit of extra moisture. Otherwise, I water this thing a couple times a day, and that gets to be kind of tedious. Stepping over here a little bit, this is my Dendrophylax, oh my gosh, what are you? Fawcettii, I remember now, sorry. This is my Dendrophylax Fawcettii, and it is doing okay as well. This one isn't doing so hot, but if you scroll down, the other little seedlings that I have growing on are growing on quite nicely. I do want to find a different spot for these guys. I think they will do better in brighter LED light versus the sunlight that they get. I think that might be the problem with this guy. It just gets a little too much light. So they're doing pretty good overall. Some people ask for care tips for these. Again, humid conditions, 80, 85, 90% if you can do it. They need to be moist. They need to not be wet. They cannot be submerged in any kind of media because they photosynthesize through their roots. They're kind of fussy. You really do need good greenhouse or close to greenhouse conditions to grow these, and they will do really well for you as long as you can keep the humidity up and keep up on the watering. They don't need any kind of real bright light from the sun. At least they will get scorched, they will get burned if you give them too much sun, but they like bright light, so something bright and diffused or bright and shaded, maybe shade cloth, would be ideal for these guys. So hopefully we can check back in the next year or two and we can see some flowers, but these are a long way off flowering, I think. Finally, we have the absolute star of our show. This is our Bulbophyllum Lassiflorum Dark, and I'm going to go ahead and take it out of here so you can get a better look, but it is absolutely awesome. This little bloom is very alien. It smells very good. It kind of smells, to me it smells like fruit snacks. It smells like the dark red fruit snacks you ate when you were a kid. I don't know if that's strawberry or raspberry, but it's got a very berry scent to it. The Lassiflorum normal version to me smelled just like fresh strawberries, but this is a little bit more rich. Yeah, that to me smells like fruit snacks, which is great considering it's a bulbophyllum because it could smell a lot different. But let me try to prop this thing up somewhere, and I'm going to give you a better look at these blooms because it really is phenomenal. So we are back with a nice close-up look of this flower. It's about, I don't know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches tall by about 1 inch or so wide, but it really does pack a punch. It's got nice furry bits. Let me use my tweezers. It's got some little furry bits to the left and right of this lip here. The lip is literally dripping with sap, and it's got everything you ever want. It's got spots, it's got the greenish creamy color down here, it's got this reddish color that is just almost black up here at the top, and the lip does wiggle just like any bulbophyllum. Let me see if I can make that happen. Well, you can see it's on a hinge, maybe. Oh. Back to the tweezers. It's got a hinged lip. That is the trait of most bulbophyllums. So, really neat flower, and something I just absolutely had to share with you guys. Again, I wish you could smell this. We need smell-o-vision in our lives for orchids. We really do. But this has been a fun plant to grow, relatively easy grower. It does grow pretty bright for a bulbophyllum. So what I would like to do is get this some more light. I think we would have a much better blooming if I could get this one and its cousin, the regular variety, a lot more light. But I cannot think of anything better to go out on than this awesome bulbophyllum. So thank you guys for tuning in. I do appreciate it, and I have lots more blooms coming in the very near future. So hopefully I can pick back up the pace of the videos for you guys and get back on track. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, happy growing.